Welcome to this new mini-series that will cover the hugely important topic of market noise. Why is this so important? Well, firstly, noise exists in all markets to some degree, and so if you don't properly understand it, or more importantly, don't know how to handle it, you'll be at a distinct disadvantage compared to traders that do. And in some cases, you can even turn noise to your advantage. In today's episode, I cover the basics and lay the foundations ready for future episodes where I'll begin to dig more deeply into this critically important subject. Understanding market noise and knowing how to handle it in your trading strategies is important. Sometimes noise can be so significant that it can become difficult to see what the underlying meaningful movements in the market are. It's like this. Noise will exist to some degree all of the time, and when this is only minor, the effects on trading systems is relatively low. The meaningful picture of what's happening in the markets is still fairly easy to identify, but as noise begins to increase, the true picture of these meaningful price action moves gets harder and harder to see. On some occasions, noise can become more dominant than the meaningful price moves themselves, and at this point, many trading systems begin to fail badly. But stay tuned for this series and I'll hopefully clear up the picture for you, enabling you to better understand noise and take the necessary steps to put you back in control of your strategies despite its effects. Because one thing's more certain than anything, market noise is here to stay. Let's make a start. During this mini-series, we'll be looking at questions like what is noise? And also looking at why noise exists. We'll be analysing the market, so we'll be doing an assessment of which assets experience more noise than others. And we'll also be looking at different time frames and seeing how noise affects those in different ways. But of course, to do this, we have to be able to measure noise. And so this will also be a topic on the agenda. But most critically, of course, there has to be a reason for doing this. And what we're aiming for is to be able to handle noise in order to increase your trading edge. And this can broadly be broken down into two areas. One is knowing how to deal with the negative effects of noise, and the second is those occasions when we can actually turn noise to our advantage. So let's start with an analogy. And it's been stated many times by many people that noise is similar to a drunk man's walk. So if someone is travelling home, then the most direct route will get them there quickest. But when someone's had maybe a couple too many glasses of wine, then their route home might not be optimal, and it might look something like this. When we look at this analogy, there's some important takeaways. The first is that the actual net movement is identical in both scenarios. So the person on both occasions has travelled between A and B, so they've travelled the same distance. However, the overall distance that they've travelled is very different, and it's this excess movement that can be analogous to market noise. So let's take this one step further and now start to look at some conceptual price action. So here we have a typical price move. But as we all know, price does not simply travel in straight lines. Instead, the price moves in a way that's very similar to the drunk man analogy that we saw a moment ago. But again, the same is true. In terms of the overall net price movement, which is A to B, this is identical in both scenarios. But as we've said, price does not move in straight lines. Instead, it follows paths like this red one, and it's this very fact that can make trading extremely challenging. So we'll take this on one step further and start to look now at some actual price action. So let's focus in on this area here. The price is clearly in a downtrend here, travelling between A and B. But look at these bars here. As you can see, the price action is extremely erratic. It's going up and down continually, even though the underlying trend is downwards. And so this could be classified as high levels of noise. Take a look over here. This time, the underlying price movement is an uptrend. But again, look at the price action at this particular point. It's continually moving up and down in an erratic way, again indicating high levels of noise. But there are other parts of this chart when actually noise is much less. So take a look at the strong uptrend on the left. Here, each of the bars indicated is green. The wicks on each candle are relatively small, at least initially, and it's not until the fourth and fifth bars here that we notice noise beginning to increase. We have a very similar situation on the right-hand side, this time a downtrend though. And then in the middle here, noise is slightly more and the volatility is slightly less, so it's not quite as clean, but again there is a lot less noise than in the first two examples that we looked at. So why is it so important to understand noise? Well, for many types of strategy, noise hinders the effectiveness of them. But there's an underlying fact that noise does exist. You can't get away from it. It's a fact of life. So you have a choice. You can either choose to ignore it, but I wouldn't recommend that, or you can learn how to handle it better. And as I said before, in some instances we can also turn it to our advantage. But we can only do this if we understand it. Let's just take a quick look forward at the next couple of episodes. So in episode 2, I'm going to look at what actually causes noise to occur in the price action. And it's this understanding that will then allow us to start to handle noise in a better way and also to take advantage of it. And then in episode 3, we'll start to get very specific and look at examples here of how noise adversely affects different trading strategies. And the specific example I'll focus on here is for trend following strategies. Now, this video was brought to you by Darwinex. And if you don't already know who we are, then you might consider clicking on the link at the bottom here, which will provide some more information about the services and the tools that we provide to traders just like you. And if that next episode is already available, then you'll find it right above. If not, you might want to consider subscribing so that you get notified when that and other episodes become available. But now, until next time, trade wise, trade safe.